Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're diving into a high-stakes, pretty much invisible race to rebuild the very foundations of our digital security. It's all happening right now in the background of our connected world. And honestly, the outcome is going to determine the future of privacy and trust online for everyone. Okay, let's just jump right in because there's this surprising revelation that kind of turns everything we thought we knew about encryption on its head. For years, right, the security community has been pushing toward what we all thought were stronger, more efficient standards. But what if we were wrong? So, for a long time, we've put our trust in this specific type of cryptography called Elliptic Curve Cryptography, or ECC. And for good reason. It was way stronger and more efficient than older standards like RSA. It gave us the same security, but with much smaller keys, which was a huge win for everything from web servers to our phones. It was the smart, modern choice. And what's really fascinating here is that even before all this new research, the estimates for breaking ECC and RSA with a quantum computer were already, well, they were pretty close. In fact, breaking the more efficient ECC was actually estimated to take slightly more quantum power than its older RSA cousin, which honestly was already kind of surprising. But that all changed. A research team from INRIA published a paper with a new quantum algorithm, and it just dramatically lowered the bar for breaking elliptic curve cryptography. It completely flipped the script on the security landscape we thought we had figured out. And that is the new number, just 1,193 logical qubits. That's all it's now estimated to take to break a standard 256-bit elliptic curve. We're talking a massive reduction, almost 50%, down from over 2,000 qubits. This is a huge deal, a real game changer in quantum cryptanalysis. Yeah, and this chart just lays it all out crystal clear. Breaking a 256-bit elliptic curve now needs 42% fewer logical qubits than the equivalent RSA key. So the very standard we all moved to because it was so efficient, well, it might actually be the first one to crack under a quantum attack. And this quote from Post-Quantum.com really just hits the nail on the head. The systems we thought were more advanced, more secure for the modern world, might now be the most vulnerable targets in the quantum age. So here's the crucial point. This isn't some far-off sci-fi problem we can worry about later. The danger is accelerating right now. Experts are actually calling this whole thing the cryptographic cliff, where new algorithms and better quantum hardware are converging, and we are getting dangerously close to the edge. The most immediate threat is a strategy called Harvest Now, Decrypt Later. What's that? Well, right now, adversaries are intercepting and just stockpiling encrypted data. We're talking government secrets, corporate intellectual property, financial records, anything that has a long shelf life. They can't break the encryption today, but they're betting that one day they will be able to. The numbers here really show how fast this is all moving. So while you hear a lot about physical qubits, that's the raw processing power, what really matters for the calculation are logical qubits, the stable ones that do the work. And just look at how the estimates for what's needed have plummeted. The gap is shrinking from both directions. The hardware is getting better, and the algorithms to break our encryption are getting way more efficient. The whole timeline is just getting shorter and shorter. Okay, so that's the scary part. What's the plan? How do we fight back? Well, in response to this threat, the global crypto community has been working for years to forge a whole new generation of digital shields, which we call Post-Quantum Cryptography, or PQ. Now, the cool thing is, these new standards aren't just slightly better versions of the old ones. Nope. They're built on a completely different kind of math. Instead of problems like factoring huge numbers, which it turns out quantum computers are really good at, they use problems based on things like high-dimensional lattices. You can think of it like trying to navigate an incredibly complex, high-dimensional maze. It's a task that's believed to be just ridiculously hard for both classical and quantum computers to solve. And this didn't happen overnight. After an 8-year-long public competition, the U.S. National Institute of Standards and Technology, that's NIST, finally published the first set of these post-quantum standards. It was this intense global effort to find the absolute best replacements for our current encryption. All right, so let's get to know the new players on the field. These are the names of our new digital locks. We've got ML-KEM, which is based on an algorithm called Kyber. That's for general encryption, for setting up secure connections. Then there's ML-DSA from Dilithium and SLH-DSA from Sphinx Plus. And those are for digital signatures, the tech that proves who you are online and makes sure software hasn't been messed with. Okay, and this is super important. This is not just a bunch of theories sitting in a research paper. The world's biggest tech companies are already, right now, in the middle of a massive, critical upgrade to get these new standards deployed. This migration is happening at a global scale. I'm talking about the giants, the companies that literally are the backbone of the internet. They're taking this threat very, very seriously, and they're moving fast to protect their infrastructure and, of course, all of us. I mean, just look at what's already rolled out. Google has already deployed quantum-safe signatures in its cloud key management service. Amazon Web Services is securing its critical cloud services with hybrid encryption. And Meta is actively protecting the vast network of its own internal infrastructure. This is all happening now. But what about performance? That's always the big question, right? Well, crucially, the performance data coming out of AWS's key management service is really, really promising. When it's configured the right way with something called connection reuse, the hit to transaction speed is basically nothing, a decrease of just 0.05%. You wouldn't even feel it. So we don't have to sacrifice performance for this new security.
Now, most of these initial rollouts are using what's called a hybrid approach. It's kind of like a belt and suspenders plan. They combine the old, trusted algorithms with the new post-quantum ones. And as Meta's engineers explain here, this gives you a critical safety net. An attacker would have to break both the classical layer and the new quantum-safe layer. It keeps the connection secure against all known threats, today and tomorrow.
So what does this all mean for you, for any organization out there handling sensitive data? Because let's be clear, every single one is going to need a plan. The number one takeaway for anyone managing systems today is the need for something called crypto agility. And really, all that means is designing your system so you're not locked into one type of encryption forever. It's the ability to easily swap out and upgrade your cryptographic foundations as the threats change, without having to rebuild your entire system from the ground up. So what can you do, right now? Well, security experts are recommending an immediate hardening sprint. It all starts with an inventory. You've got to know where all your vulnerable crypto is hiding. Then, you move fast to enable that hybrid protection on your most critical connections. After that, you start migrating your software signing to the new standards. Update your internal policies so no one builds new stuff with the old crypto. And then just continuously test and validate everything.
This transition is truly one of the most significant and most complex security upgrades in the history of the internet. The new standards are here, the technology is ready, and the industry leaders are already on the move. The question isn't if we're going to rebuild, it's how fast can we get it done. The silent arms race is officially on, and the clock is ticking.